And again, I want to welcome everybody. My name is Chris Hampton, and welcome to the vision class, which we call I See Me. And the first class that we're going to talk about today is called Living Beyond Where You Are. And we're going to be talking about two important lenses. I have a quote that I used to say by me. It says, vision and purpose are two lenses you need to see life clearly. Vision and purpose are two lenses that you need to see life clearly. So think of it as two eyeglasses, and you need two lenses. You don't need one lens. You need both of those lenses so that you can see perfectly clear, okay? And that's vision and purpose. So as I said, this is a three-part class. So the first part you're going to get tonight, and the second part you're going to get tonight, it's going to be talking about the importance of vision and purpose. Class number 2 is talking about making the vision work. So making the vision work. So we're going to talk about how to see the vision and how to see purpose. And then we're going to be talking about how to put that vision and purpose to work. Okay, so this is going to be interactive, so I'm going to actually throw some questions out and talk to you and get some feedback, and hopefully by the middle of this, you're going to have your piece of paper and your notes that are on here. But as a part of this class, I'm going to send you the notes as well. I have your email, so I'm going to send you a copy of these notes that you can go back and look back and reflect on as you look alongside the recording that you get as well. Okay, so let's start off with, when I talk about vision, I'm a definition guy, so I like to define things, and as you know, when you hear me talk, I always say, what's the meaning of it? Because if we understand the proper meaning of what we're looking for, we'll be able to understand how to apply it. So we're going to talk about why vision is important. And the reason why vision is important is because you will not see purpose without your vision. You will not see purpose without your vision. The definition of vision is a clear mental picture of your preferable future. Okay? Vision is not an inkling. It's a clear picture in your mind of a preferable. When I say preferable, I mean a possible future. So when you look at your life and you're looking at what you want to accomplish in your life, you're looking at what your life can be. The great thing about the human imagination is a lot of the things that you see today are because of the imagination. They were able to imagine something that might not have existed right now, but because they were able to see it and have it kind of a picture in their mind, they were able to take steps to making it happen, even when nobody else saw it. Your vision is for you. So when you start talking and seeing your vision and you see your preferable future, remember, it's a preferable future. It's not your preferable now. So when you're talking to people, you have to be very careful when you're talking to people, because when you're talking to people about a preferable future and they're in your now, they can't see because they're in your now. So you have people telling you what's not possible, because they're looking from the same viewpoint that you're looking now. That's why you have to know that vision, there's a difference between vision and sight. There are two forms of sight. There's vision and there's sight. So when you think about vision, vision is always going to be future tense. So you are the seer, you are the prophet, you are the visionary for your life. And when you're talking in lines of vision, you're talking from a point of, I'm seeing my future, so stay out of my present and my past. I'm seeing my future, so when I'm visualizing my future me, I can't have room for people that are living in what we call the sight realm. And where the sight realm is right now is like, oh my God, the pandemic of COVID has hit us. And when people who have no vision are presented with a problem that's in the present, they lose all functionality. You have friends, you have entrepreneurs that you are seeing right now that had in 2020 did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because they were hindered by the pandemic. But the pandemic is only for a season or a time. The pandemic is in your present. How can I move past my present? when I have a bigger picture for my life, a bigger vision for my life. When you have vision, you're no longer stumbled by present situations. Put your hand in front of your face and go like this. And that's the problem. We're looking at the problem face to face. We're looking at the problem and saying, there's a hand in my face. There's an obstacle that's in my way. When Olivia was sharing about herself, she was sharing about an obstacle, right? She was saying about her situation, her condition. That's an obstacle. It's in her present and it's real. But she was able to see beyond her problem because she said, my life is not conditioned off of this present problem. This present problem. She was able, in spite of a brain injury, to be able to grow and write a book, which someone in her present could tell her, you shouldn't be writing a book. You can't do what you're doing right now. You can't be a coach. You can't be an international sensation. Why? Because they're doing that. They're living with a hand in front of their face. Right? You can't be that. When you realize that you have a preferable future that's way better than your now, what this becomes is an obstacle. And obstacles can be what? Overcome. Obstacles can be moved out the way. Obstacles can be totally removed. I like to say I can go over you, under you, or through you. Why? Because this is a present situation and it's only a matter of time. I share a little testimony with myself is that 2020 I was supposed to be an international speaker in my mind, right? I was going to speak on my first international event. I got an invitation to speak in London, England, in the United Kingdom. Had my plane ticket. I was amped because someone from outside the United States thought I was special enough to actually invite me to speak on their soil. And then out of nowhere, COVID came. And the pandemic came. And what the pandemic did was be totally disrespectful to my purpose. Because what it did, it shut down the plane, it shut down the hotels, it shut down the present opportunity, and told me that I had to stay my butt home. Now, I could have been like some speakers and just be so dazzled and so dazzled by the pandemic that I lost time. But one of the things that I did was I started to do virtual presentations, and I didn't mean to do virtual presentations. So I don't want to tell you that I intentionally started doing it. But when I had gotten a COVID scare, I said I got to do something. So I started sharing about my COVID fear and my COVID experience. And I was in quarantine. And so I was locked in my room when quarantine was the first version of quarantine. So they said, you can't do nothing. So my wife would put something by the door and just leave me alone. So I was in my office, in my man cave, by myself most of my time. And I said, I got to make use of my time. And even though you may look at me now and say I'm comfortable talking virtually, this wasn't this last year. If you go onto my Instagram and you see Champ Ryan Speaks on my Instagram and you look earlier during this year, I wasn't as comfortable in front of the camera as I'm doing now. But I chose to do something because my vision for my life required me to speak. Whether there's a pandemic or life got shut down, I had to be flexible enough to move forward and pursue my vision in spite of the problem. And out of that situation, people started calling me to do virtual events. And all of a sudden, I'm getting virtual events from all over the world. I'm speaking next month in Sri Lanka, India, Malaysia, countries I probably never would have stepped foot in. We did 3 different conferences last year that were international. Why? Because I stayed committed to my vision in spite of the problem. I was committed to my preferable future regardless of the pandemic. And then realized that because my vision was guiding me that I was able to see the opportunities. When you understand your vision and purpose, you see resources and opportunities more clear. So when we talk about why you need to understand your vision and be very clear on your vision and purpose, is because right now you are surrounded by potential opportunities and potential resources. A man can look at cow dung in two totally different ways. One guy could step in it and say, ooh, I stepped into it. The other one could say, hey, this is a whole entire industry called fertilizer. He took what was smelly and left over and turned it into vision. Requires, it can look at a situation totally different. We're surrounded by the same things, but because of vision, you're able to identify a resource better than what you did before. So vision, again, is that picture of a preferable future. And we choose to walk by vision and not by sight. Say that to yourself. I walk by vision and not by sight. And that's so important that you see that, because, again, that's going to be able to dictate your action in the midst of whatever trouble you go into. When you're looking at trouble, you got to say, I walk by vision and not by sight. Vision is a future hope. It's a future hope that you have built enough belief and strength in that you're willing to put some action to it. And then it turns from vision into purpose. See, vision is what you see. Purpose is what you do. I'll say that again. Vision is what you see. Purpose is what you do. Purpose is intentional, okay? You can't tell me purpose, you're moving on purpose and you have no idea where you're going. Purpose is you're moving towards what you have saw. See, I see myself now affecting the world globally and helping release the champion in people, helping them to understand themselves and discover themselves and be able to embrace their purpose and bring value to the world. I see that on a global scale. So now everything I do is connected to my vision and my purpose. See, if you're focused, you see, purpose gives you the reason for the journey. Excuse me, had a side check. Purpose will give you the reason for the journey. Now, this is how important vision and purpose is. Everything you do should be run through your vision and your purpose. Everything you do should be run through your why or your vision or your purpose. The choices that you make, ask yourself, are the choices that I've made in my life complementing the vision that I see and the purpose that I'm supposed to be pursuing? When you have a perfect view of your vision and you have a view of your purpose, it will dictate what you watch. It will dictate your relationships. You know, you won't, if you're single and you have, and I brought this up, if you're single, your vision and your purpose should be a guideline on who you date. Why? Because if you're going to connect with somebody that is not aligned with your vision, not aligned with your purpose, you can't walk together unless you agree. So I had a friend, and she's a motivational speaker, and she's in the dating world right now, and she's in that dating phase, and then she's running against people that are looking at her, and they say, oh, that's cute. What you do is cute. But she's saying, this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So if they're looking at that as a cute purpose, when you get married, they're going to think that your purpose is going to take a second seat to the marriage. But your purposes should be aligned. They don't have to be identical, but you should be aligned and going in the same direction. So your relationships should be, vision and purpose will dictate who you allow to pour into you, who you allow to teach you. Vision and purpose will dictate who you connect to as mentors. And that's in our next class that we're going to talk about. But if you don't know what your vision is, how are you going to connect to a mentor? What can they possibly give you if you can't tell them where you're going? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so that's so important. So when you know your why, you begin to live life on purpose. So when you ask why I need vision, I need to be able to see clearly so I can get to where I'm going. So think of it like this. So vision is your where and your what. Purpose is your why and your how. I'm about to give you another way of looking at it. Purpose is your where, your what, your why, your how, your when. So now we're going to get you to how to write your own vision and purpose statement out. By the end of this section, you're going to be able to have it written down what your purpose is. And you need this. This is going to be your passport to life. You're going to have a little passport. I'm gonna have to make that up, AJ. We got to make products. I'm going to make a passport of life that you're going to have a little book that you're going to open up, and it's going to say, my passport for life is my where, my what, my why, my how. And you pull that passport out whenever you're about to make a decision. You pull that prosto when that Joker pot pie comes up to you and wants to ask you out. You pull that you pull it out and say, this is my passport to my relationships. My passport to my business opportunities. That's worth the price of admission. I got to write that one down with it. So write this down. Where am I going? So when you're thinking about purpose, write down, where am I going? Destination. Who goes on a vacation and you don't know where you're going? Now, I know there are some people that are like that. But normally, people don't just say, I'm going to get up and go, and I'm not going to tell you how long it's going to be. I don't know how long. I don't have the... Why? Because most people don't have the resources or the time to be able to live like that. So in order for you to make the best of the journey, you have to know where you're going. And when you understand where you're going, you understand what I'm supposed to be doing on my way to where. So then you can put what. And that what says, what am I supposed to do while I'm on my way to where? We met Olivia through the mentor studio. Why? That's just a road trip. That's just a way station on my way to where. Why? Because while I'm on my way to where, I need to build relationships, which we're going to talk about. So I strategically look for networking situations with people that align with my vision and my purpose. Why? Because when we do that, I'm going to find resources and opportunities. And out of that resource and opportunity, they have me doing what? I am now hosting a clubhouse, right? I didn't do that because I just wanted to do it. I didn't do that because it was cute. I didn't do that because I don't have nothing to do with my time. I did that because it was a purpose move. And I did it intentionally because it was my skill set was there. And even though it doesn't look like it might benefit me immediately, there's things that I'm learning along the way. There are opportunities that have come from Clubhouse that have nothing to do with the Mentor Studio, but because I was there, opportunities have come. But if I wasn't looking at that situation through the eyes of vision and purpose, I would have wasted the opportunity. So I know what I need to be doing on my way to where. So I said, where am I going? What am I supposed to be doing? Put down why. Why is my intention, my reason for doing it? I don't want to be a global speaker just so I can get the love and the attention of the world and the money and the cars. I like the money. I like money. I want to have money, but that's not the driving factor of why I do what I do. I like to connect. I love it when the light bulb comes on and people are saying, wow, I see me. And when I reach one person, it makes me want to reach another person. So my intentions are real. I need money because money will allow me to do what I need to do. But money is not my driving force. And you can tell what coaches are out there that want the money. You can tell. You can get that feeling when it's money over purpose. But what's your intention for doing what you're doing? So we said where, what, why, and how. I like talking about the how because the how we get to talking about vehicles. And vehicles are instruments of travel that help you get from point A to point B. Here's the problem with vehicles when we talk about purpose and vision. You tell me I believe I'm supposed to be a teacher. So what do? You go to college because they tell you to go to college. You go to you get your degree, and then you go to an elementary school, and you say, I'm going to teach kids. That's a vehicle. That's one type of vehicle. I love teaching, but I don't like being in the same school 180 days out the year. So there are different types of teachers, different types and vehicles of teaching. I realize I have a gift to teach, but there are many different vehicles of how I get there. Teachers can actually say they're complaining about their job, but they have so many ways of creating other vehicles with the knowledge that they have. Why can't a teacher create a curriculum? Why can't a teacher teach a way of teaching kids? Why can't a teacher come up with a new form of educating? Why? Because the average person is stuck with the vehicle. Listen, my very first car was a doo-doo brown Nissan Datsun. I was a teenager, and they don't even make Datsuns anymore. But I call it the doo-doo brown Nissan Datsun. Okay? That little thing, that clunker, took me all over the world for my first 2 years. I am not in the same vehicle that I was before, thank God. Same thing with where you're at. That's why when you see people hitting that 50 mark, you see them recreating themselves because they realize that they spent 25, 50 years in a vehicle that was not meant to be there. And now you see them recreating themselves for the last stage of their life or the next stage of their life. Because they waited so long to realize that a vehicle could only take them but so long. Why? Because society says jump in the vehicle and drive that vehicle till the wheels come off. But I am an example today that there's different types of teachers. And don't get mad at me because we start making a lot more money than they make in a year because we choose to be creative and innovative with the platforms that we are at. And you're saying, well, you can do the same thing. Don't fall in love with the vehicle. Another example is, I love people, I have a thing, dancers. A little girl says, Mommy, I want to dance. No, you're going to be a doctor. But Mommy, I love dancing. Can't make no money dancing. Again, that's somebody sitting in the now trying to dictate to you a future that they're not meant to see. Okay? But who knew that in the 21st century, we have medical treatments, medical therapy that's based off of dance. Senior citizens They've been looking to be more active. I knew a CNA that was taking care of my mom before she passed away. And I would go see my mom and I would talk to her. And I went to school with her. Do you know this young lady was so talented that she went and graduated from Juilliard? Is she a nurse? No. She's a CNA. And now whenever I'm sitting with somebody, I'm always talking about purpose. I said, you know you could do more with this, right? You went to Juilliard. They just don't let anybody go to Juilliard. You could do dance therapy for seniors, and they would pay you just to come in that facility and teach therapy. And you know, she said, she thought about it, but then she went back to the vehicle that she was used to. So I really want you to really understand the power of vehicles. Don't get tied down to the vehicle. Be creative. Look at the next stage of your life and say, what vehicle is going to get me to where I need to get to? And the vehicle that you may need now, you might need an off-road vehicle. You can't have that regular two-wheel drive. The next vehicle needs to be a little bit more rugged and able to stand the test. So we said, where am I going? We said, why? What am I supposed to do while I'm on the journey? We said, what is my why? And we talked about my how. Now, Olivia, you're going to like this one because you're goal-centric. What is my timeline? So you got to put down when. When is the timeline? And here's the problem with the timeline, because I'm 46 now. I'm not 46. I'm 45 and a half. But I just started speaking professionally within the last 5 years. But being a professional speaker has been in my heart since I graduated high school. Actually, since I was a freshman in high school. And I never put a timeline on it. I would talk about it. I would wishfully think about it, but never put a timeline on it. To the point where I had a friend of mine who I said I wanted her to be my fashion designer because I said I need help. I need help getting dressed because I looked about a decade past my clothing had to upgrade, and here I am doing Champagne apparel, trying to dress other people now. But at that time, I was like, I got to be ready for TV. I got to be ready, and just think of where I was dressing. You think of the Cosbys and Bill Cosby, Dr. Huxtable. I was basically Dr. Huxtable in 2015. And it took a good friend of mine to say, you need to update. So what I was saying to her was, I'm going to get ready for this platform. She said, you know what, you've been talking about this for a while. You've been saying this to me for a while. And it didn't click. It didn't click. A couple years later, it finally clicked and got real to me. And then I started to pursue it. You see, there's a difference between wishing, dreaming, and vision. When you think about wishing is I see it, I entertain it, but I don't really believe it. You ever catch yourself wishing I had this type of life? You ever catch yourself, I know when I was younger, I would wish about being in a certain place. And then I was like, I wish I could have that. I was seeing it, but not really believing that it could be for me. I was looking at certain relationships, but not really believing enough to pursue it because I really didn't believe that was for me. That's wishing. Now, wishing is okay because it gets the thought to at least be in your imagination. I still have some wishes that are running around in my head, okay? It hasn't got to the point where I believe. Now I'm at a point where I almost believe if I can see it, I can do it. Because I just don't know how to do it. So I got my belief conditioned a different way now. So wishes are I see possibilities now. But some of us are still in the wish phase. So it's not a bad thing because it has to get in your head somewhere. And a lot of times it happens when you're sleeping. Because we're so distracted by life that we can't, life has a habit of killing your imagination. So the good Lord puts you to sleep, and he allows you to have all these different things go through your head and your mind eye, and you're seeing possibilities. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I'm like, in my mind, when I dream, I am the superhero in my own dreams. I don't get nightmares. But it shows me the possibilities till it becomes a dream. And a dream is a wish that has mixed with belief. You can see it. You can believe it's possible. You just don't know how yet. Dr. Martin Luther King had a famous speech, said, "What, I have a dream." And we celebrate that speech to a fault. He said, "Did you just talk about Dr. King?" No, I talked about how we respond to Dr. King. Why? Because he said, "I had a dream." Dr. King was a visionary. He had a dream of something that he saw in the preferable future. And he was believing enough to put action to it. And as he was starting to put action to it, he died in the midst of him putting the action to it. You see, vision is when you respond to what you have seen. You have plans. You have action. So I celebrate the dream, but we are living in his vision. You see the difference? So we said, where am I going? What am I supposed to do? Why? How? And when? Understand this. We waste a lot of time because we do not understand what we're seeing. And we don't know what we ought to be doing when we live life without vision. We waste a lot of time because we do not understand what we're seeing, and we don't know what we ought to be doing because we're living without vision. Now, let me give you a warning. I'm going to give you a warning. Vision and purpose are not definite. Just because you see it, it's not obligated to come to pass unless you're willing to work it. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, faith without works is dead. You can believe in something, but if you don't believe it to the point that it requires action, it's worthless. If you're not willing to do what it takes to make it happen, you will live in an alternative future. I'll say that one time, next ticket. If you're not willing to do what it takes to make it happen, you will live in an alternative reality. So you're like, why is my life horribly miserable? Because that's the reality that you have chose to live in. I don't have a bad side of the bed. When I feel like I'm going to have a bad side of the bed, I push my bed to the corner. You make the reality that you're in today. Your reality is a result of you following the vision or the purpose or the lack of vision or purpose in your life. So what I don't want you to do is to fall victim to a curse of a potential reality. Don't fall in love with potential. Because potential, although it can be positive, potential to me is a curse word. Potential is a possibility. You have potential is just a fancy word for you ain't done nothing yet. So when I look at Olivia and I look at AJ and I see you on the screen, I say, you have potential. I'm telling you that I see something in you that you haven't produced. You ain't done nothing yet. You have not done anything that you have been enough that you have the potential to become. Nobody wants to be potentially rich. Nobody wants to be potentially healthy. Nobody wants to be potentially wealthy. You meet somebody that wants to be potential and live in a life of potential. There's something wrong. Why? Because you're living in the land of nothing. When we don't have an idea of putting a demand on our dreams and our vision, we live in potential. And what happens is your dreams become internalized. Your skills become undeveloped. And you miss opportunities. So what did we say about vision? We said we are in purpose. We said, where am I going? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? How am I going to get there? And what is my timeline? Let's take a break. Let's take a break. And I want you to take a couple minutes to write down, where are you going? Write down, what am I supposed to be doing? Why? What is my intention? It doesn't have to be a long thing, but I want you to write that down. And what I want you to do with that is I want you to put this and let this really be. I'm really going to do that passport thing. Okay, but you need to have that on your mirror or have that on your bureau. Have it somewhere that you're going to look at every day and put it into your mind and repeat it and keep it fresh. Where am I going? What am I supposed to do while I'm on my way to where? Why am I doing it? How am I going to get there? And what is my timeline? When? So let's take a couple minutes. Let's take about 3 minutes just to pause and think about that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to share this point. Without vision and purpose, you'll spend your life being a slave to building someone else's monument. Abuse, the definition of abuse is when you use something or someone for a purpose that is not intended. You're not supposed to be a slave to someone else's vision. When you have vision and purpose, your job becomes an opportunity for you to grow. But most people look at their work and their day job as a horrifying experience. I love my day job. I'm a dualpreneur because my job is providing information and experiences that will impact my future. I'm learning skills now of being a sales agent about learning how not to be micromanaged. I learned how to talk to C-level executives. Why? Because when I'm Champ I Am, I have to talk to the same people that I'm learning how to deal with now. But if I don't have vision and purpose, I live with the viewpoint of a slave rather than a viewpoint of someone who is building his future. So that's a pause moment. I want you to think about that. Because it allows you to know where you're doing and what you're building. We're making good time here. So that we know what you're supposed to be writing down is where am I going? What am I supposed to do? Why? My intention? How? And when? So I'm about to I call on the two of y'all to give me the share parts of what you have. So AJ, I hope you're there.
I am here, and I'm hoping you don't call me first. Thank you.
Shots fired.
Yeah, AJ, I was hoping the same thing about me.
AJ, you took this class before. You didn't save your notes. All right. Where am I going? What am I supposed to do while I'm on my way to where? Why? What's my intention, my reason? What are my vehicles? How am I going to get there? You don't have to name a bunch of vehicles. You can name one vehicle. Just identify the vehicle. And your timeline can be now. It can be 5 years from now. But when? Okay. Does anybody want to share what you have? You don't have to have it all, because hopefully.
I'll share since AJ doesn't really want to be first.
Yeah, I got AJ in the second class. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Where am I going? I see myself as a writer and a person helping other people write. And the topic has to be wellness of some kind. I don't like fiction. I want nonfiction writers. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to help people celebrate their dreams and find a way to believe and execute what it is that they want through writing a memoir about if it's a memoir, it has to be non-fictional, like I was down and now I'm up, why, what am I supposed to do while I'm on my way there? I'm going to keep practicing by giving webinars and teaching people about journaling and create my own books so that I can show them that if I can create it, they can create it too. And then also learn all the little things that they might ask me about creating, even though we can help people by hiring other people to help them. The more we know, when we recommend, go to this one for PR, go to this one for proofreading, go to this one, it gives them more confidence that we've experienced it and we're giving them the best knowledge or the best view for their budget or for their needs. So just develop a database at my fingertips of people who can help these writers execute their the elements. Why, when, how am I doing it? Like I said, webinars, speaking engagements, writing articles, and when. I guess I've already written 2 books, so in the next 91 days, I'm gonna before the next 91 days, I'm going to be having another book come out. And I guess like in 91 days later, I have a couple of books coming out, or a couple of books coming out where I'm just a collaborator, one of 100 or one of 14, because the more opportunities you have to experience things, and some of these things that I'm participating in, it forces me to write, and then it forces me to see that I can do it. But some of these things are also charitable events, like the money that we're raising, that they're asked, some of these things you have to pay to participate in, but all that money is going to go to some charity, and I like the idea that I'm giving somehow back. And so the only obstacle I had from all the things that you said wasn't the how, it was more like, I think of the words tactics, right? So I might do speaking engagements, but like as we're learning at the Mentor Studio, you have to write that bio for them to present to yourself. Then you have to, and so one of the things I'm feeling that I'm working on, and like I put myself on Facebook and do Facebook Lives, even though the whole thing was an embarrassment because you cannot stop, right? Because if you want someone else to not stop, then you have to be an example. You have to be unstoppable, even though you're totally embarrassed by your Facebook. And all I want to do is delete, but I leave it on there because it's just who I am, right? I have to accept myself and how I present myself and what I have. But I've been hiring people to help me become a better speaker, get my message across. So one of the things that I think when you're speaking is like, it reminds me of Les Brown. You have, it's almost like, you know when to speak, you know when to give a little Bible verse, you know when to give. So this thing seems to be like an art that you didn't just create. You know,
a lot of it's come because of just being and speaking and growing. So So and putting yourself out there to speak. So yeah. So I encourage you to just continue to do the process, because it may look like I just showed up and did this, but a lot of it's because
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like you just showed up. It looks like you've been practicing a long time and you've gotten great coaches, or that you've listened to great people and said, I want to be like him.
But that's
I
that's
wanna
all
be-"
about where you're going and your tactics about where you're doing, and you're on the
Yes,
right
yes.
track. Yes.
And so I think my biggest vision isn't the writing as much as like celebrating people.
There you go.
Letting them
That's what I
know
wanted to point out. That's what I wanted to
that
point. Yes.
they really deserve to be celebrated. Nobody should tell you you're not good enough, that you can't do it. You know how many people have told me I can't write a book? You can't write a book, you can't even spell. And I'm thinking, and what does writing a book have to do with spelling? I'll hire someone to spell
Yes.
and check my spelling. There's a computer software that spells. There's Grammarly, there's all these things. Please don't tell me I can't write a book.
Can I interrupt? Can I just interrupt right there, because that was the main point that I was looking at. When you started off, that what you just said right there should actually go in the beginning.
Yes.
When you say, when I ask you where am I going and what is your why, or when they're saying I'm why, that's your statement. I want to be the type of person that right now that teaches people how to celebrate themselves, how to discover themselves. That's where you're going, because what you led with, which is what we're conditioned to lead with, was the vehicle.
Yes.
The very first thing you said was, I am a writer. Good.
Yes.
So and everything you did was like the engine to the car, you went manual transmission, and you said the car goes this speed. Everything you said wrapped amongst a writer vehicle.
Yes.
And you kind of limited yourself to that vehicle, because the vehicle can only do but so much. But when you make your life statement and you're saying, my reason and my passion is to teach people how to celebrate themselves, then when you open up, it opens up your eyes to a bigger picture of all the things that you can do that connects to making that possible. So you're not just a writer, you're a speaker. You're a facilitator, you're a podcaster, and you can have a garage with multiple vehicles. Not just one vehicle. Do you see the bigger picture now?
I do. I do. Before my accident, one of the things I used to do for people was I used to work with hoarders, and they were about to get evicted, or if they didn't clean up. And so what I did when I walked in was I would look for something beautiful that they had. And I said, wow, that's really pretty. We should hang that up on the wall somewhere. And they would say, you really think so? I said, I think that belongs in a museum. What is that? Oh, that's the very first iron they've ever made. I belonged to my great-great-grandmother. I go, definitely. I knew it was a museum piece. I go, but where are we going to put it? We need to make it so it stands out by itself. Let's clear this part of the apartment out so we can just put that up. Maybe we'll make a label. So, like, what I did was I celebrated things that they owned, and I didn't look at them like, oh, this is disgusting. How can you live like that? It was more like, what's going on? You have so many beautiful things. Let's put it in a place where we can celebrate it, and then celebrate you, so that when people come in here, they don't look at you and say, how can you live like this? They go, wow, that's interesting. What is that? And so whether it's writing or something else, I think people need love, and they need to know that they're amazing and that they have amazing things that interest them.
So you have to write that down, so that, because people need to know. And that's what we're going to talk about in our next portion of this next class part, which we're about to phase into right now, is being able to vocalize your vision in such a way that people can connect with it.
Okay.
Because what you gave me right now when we talk about, hopefully get a chance to talk behind the scenes, when we get to be able to see that, you're able to see so many different possibilities of what you can do to get yourself out there. But you kind of limited what we can do with you by speaking in terms of the vehicle. And when I hear you speak your passion in the way that you do, you gave yourself so many, again, you opened up the imagination so that we could see more. And I need you to be able to see the possibilities so that you are now able to see the opportunities and the resources that are now in front of you to be able to say now you have a choice to what you can use in your life.
Okay.
So that's what I want you to be. Work on that. That's your homework assignment. Work on writing that out and expressing that so that that comes out in the beginning and that everything else complements it from there. AJ, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, I gave you enough time.
All right, so the question is, where am I going? And so I believe I am going into a space where I become a better communicator, because it's important for me to communicate to others things that they may find complicated. So I'm going to explain this a little bit. I really do believe that there are things that I have learned, whether it's in school, whether it was in passing, that for some reason a lot of people find to be complicated. And what I've been told over and over again is that when I break it down for them, it doesn't become as difficult or unreachable. Once, case in point, nonprofit, that's my background, grant writing. Sometimes people find that to be extremely difficult. And once I break down the science to them and explain the language, it's not so much that it's difficult, it's just the rules. And it's about knowing what the rules are. Sometimes it's really just knowing what your strategy is to how you'll go about whatever it is, whether your project, whether it's a grant project, whether it's nonprofit mission or vision or whatever way you go about it. There's a formula. I think the word formula makes more sense. But I think he's pushing me to become a better communicator. I think, and I say he because in my life it's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, I'm being pushed to become a better communicator because I need to become a better teacher.
Okay. So let me ask you, AJ. Let me ask you this because I know you. Let me think. I still think that's still smaller because you're taking that communication as a vehicle too. There's an overwhelming picture of when I see all the things that we do. We work together and we do community involvements. We do conversations with Camden. We talk about good vibes. There's a commonality of community and bringing people together in the community. There's a bigger piece of serving our community and being in the community. So when I ask for what is your why, and a lot of times we gravitate again to our giftings, our talents, and our abilities because you do have the gift of communication, yes, but that serves your why. That serves you where you're going, the bigger picture. So that's just, again, we tend to narrow down on our giftings, but there's a bigger picture because I see what you do in the community. And there's a common thread of serving the community, whether it's to uplift your local community or to bring our community together that we can communicate together and breaking down barriers, which we do. And a lot of that has come through you and through your example. So what I want you to do is, we don't have to do that. I'm giving you that because as homework, because again, there's a bigger picture of it.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why do you want to communicate with people who do nonprofit as opposed to communicate with and break things down simpler to like kids who don't know how to do math? Why'd you pick that as opposed to something? I mean, if you say that you want to break things down to make things easier and simpler, why'd you pick it? Breaking down nonprofit grants as opposed to breaking down math problems or breaking down something else?
Well, I think in my as a case in point, that tends to be, I tend to be the go-to in my community for nonprofit. In Camden, I'm from New York City, the city of capitalism. In Camden, that's quite different. People tend to run to become a nonprofit faster than they would to start a business. And so I see that what they're trying to do because of the city, the condition of our city. I know that they think that's the answer. So I just brought that up as an example, but I understand what you're saying. I think also with Chris, making it too broad. I think what I learned as Chris was talking was that, in essence, I do believe my purpose is to serve. And I think it's also to be an example to show others how to serve. Because in essence, I think that is the way of the world. That's the way the world should be.
And that's what I was talking about, AJ. What you just said right there, in that line of the service and how you serve there's a why in there. There's a where. There's a destination. It's a bigger picture than what you did. To answer Olivia's question is that the reason why you look at certain things and why not all teachers are meant to teach kids. So what she might be, she is a business coach. She is, and that's a vehicle that she gives. She could easily partner with the county college and Rutgers, which she does, and they can bring her into Rutgers and she could talk about entrepreneurship. But that's a vehicle. And again, we're very conditioned to think that certain titles need to do certain things. And what I want you to do is release yourself of those expectations.
In my listening, in my listening though, I get that she wants to help nonprofits in Camden. Doesn't seem like she wants to help nonprofit artists who want to apply for a multi-million-dollar grant to do something in some fancy place. I mean, that's the impression I'm getting, that she's very specific at the types of nonprofits. And so I think that might help her say her why, because she's not really saying, you seem like you have niched who you want to serve.
And that's okay.
Am I misunderstanding that? Would you want to serve anybody who wants to write a nonprofit application, or are you having a specialty of who you'd prefer? If some rich meaning financially limitless, to have you help them, and they want to write a proposal for some fancy thing, would you work on that? And as opposed to the same time someone came with a much smaller budget, but they wanted to serve the local community and open up a hospital, a little community hospital center, would you be more prone to one as opposed to the other? Or you just like the concept of helping people write proposals for nonprofit purposes?
I would be willing to work with any of who you just mentioned. I think for me, it's you have a nonprofit that's going to help. There's a reason why you have a nonprofit. So it's not, if you're the rich person who, can hire me to help you do X, Y, Z, that's fine. But if you're the small nonprofit that doesn't have that access and feels like it's unattainable for you to do good because you may not have the funds to pay a grant writer who, requires you to pay them $5,000 plus to write certain. I don't want to, and I'm glad you said the niche, because I think that's what I've done, because I have a consulting business that helps nonprofits. But the more you say that, it's like, well, I don't want that to be my why. And so I think I have more work to do in trying to figure that out. When Chris says serve the community, it felt so good. It felt very like the shoe fit. Whereas, I'm not stumbling around that concept, but it's like, where am I serving? Like, how am I serving?
And you won't know how you're serving until you can identify the where and the why. So, like, again, Camden is not her life, because I know her. Again, Camden is not her life.
5 more years.
It's a season. So that's the win. That's the win right there. She got a 5-year plan for Camden. They better use her while they have her. But because you know the bigger picture, like I said, there are some obligations that I have that are just a season. I'm a commissioner for I talked with her today, for the city of Camden, for the arts and culture for the city of Camden. I've given them a win. They got 2 years of my attention. Okay? Because I know the bigger picture, I know what I can commit to. And that goes to my next point. So I'm going to phase right in. We're on time, but I want to phase right into the part 2, which is talking about now that we can see the vision, now we got to make the vision work.